AI will be the best or the worst thing ever for the humanity. We need to make sure that it's the former. Now, these words of wisdom are from one of the greatest visionaries of our time, that's Elon Musk. Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session. We are here to explore rather interesting and important topic, which is how AI can simplify and amplify inspections. My name is Om Puran, and I'll be a host and moderator for today. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our esteemed presenter, that's Rahul Kumar. Rahul is a director at Aaseya and is responsible for solutioning. We are lucky to have him today guide us through this interesting topic of how AI can simplify and amplify inspections. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Now, this session is being recorded and the recording would be available after the webinar. If you have any questions during the presentation or during the session, please type them into the Q&A box and we are going to address them at the end of the session. Now, without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Rahul. Rahul, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Om. Thank you for the kind introduction. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. And my name is Rahul. I am a director at Aaseya IT Services. And today we'll explore on how AI can simplify and amplify inspections. Let's get started. Right. I'll quickly set up the agenda. So we'll talk about inspection and explore some of the AI opportunities. We'll talk about the key challenges that the traditional way of inspection faces and how AI can help us. We'll discuss some of the best practices that Aaseya as an organization had taken to develop our in-house inspection solution, the aHawkAI, which is covering a lot of AI use cases. And towards the end, we'll see a live demo of the aHawkAI solution, and we'll focus on the AI use cases that we have implemented. As Om said, we'll take the questions at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. Right. So let's get started with the main content. Inspections. Now the inspections is everywhere. Inspection as a process is used in every industry to ensure safety, compliance, and manage quality. Now, these are some of the industries I have listed out where inspection is very heavily used. Let's take an example. Let's say government. Now, government, when I say government, there are different sectors in the government, and each of these sectors conduct several inspections in their own capacity to ensure quality and monitor the regulatory compliances. So let's take an example of water department. They conduct periodic inspections on the water quality to ensure it's safe for drinking and public consumption. Let's take municipality. Now they conduct several forms of inspection because they manage the council, and they conduct inspections like uh, market inspections where they ensure that the commercial establishments are conducting their business in the proper way and following all the regulatory compliances. And the list keeps going on. In construction, we do structural monitoring to ensure it's safe for residency or any sort of commercial activities. Right. So now that we have established our inspections, what inspection is and where it is used, let's talk about AI and how it can be, or how AI can be leveraged in inspections. Now, before we go any deeper, let's establish what AI is. AI is simulation of human intelligence, where it behaves or it supports humans to perform their activities. Now, how do we achieve that level of sophistication? It is primarily with three key aspects: learning, reasoning, and self-correction. Learning is the part where we impart all the knowledge that we have to the machine. Once that knowledge is there, we give it capability to make decisions based on the information that is available to it. Now, this decisioning would change based on the input, right? And Once we have given it these capabilities, obviously there always is a scope for correction, and that's where the learning comes in. So over a period of time, this self-correcting model makes sure that it gives us accurate and consistent responses. Now, how we can leverage AI in the inspection process to guarantee product quality, operational safety, and regulatory compliances. These are the things which we'll be covering in the later slides. But before we go there, let's also talk about different types of AI or different technologies which are there in the AI space. So we have got generative AI, computer vision, machine learning algorithms. Now I have quoted only three. There are several other technologies which comes under AI, but these are key technologies which helps us in the inspection space, and we'll learn a lot about this. Now, before we go there, let's talk about the key challenges in the traditional inspections. Now, I've listed out some of the uh, challenges that we face in our day-to-day inspections if it is performed traditionally. Now, this can be broadly categorized into two categories: the manual inspection challenges and the operational bottlenecks. So, things like time consuming, accuracy and consistency issue, or the data volume management. These are more of a manual inspection challenge where it is difficult for us to manage. No two people can think the same, and that brings is the inconsistency part. It's very time consuming because people have to travel to different places and then conduct inspection, and again going through a huge checklist items. So obviously it takes time. While the other three are the operational bottlenecks, where we have to cater ever changing regulatory compliances, because the regulations keep changing with ever changing needs. There is always problem with the scalability, where we struggle to assign resources to the inspections. And then there is always a training problem with the ever changing needs of the business. So how do we overcome these challenges? And that's where AI comes to our rescue. So we have talked about simplification of the process and the amplification of the process. Now, with the by leveraging the AI technologies, we can simplify our process. And once we simplify the process, it gives us the greater productivity that what we are trying to achieve. Now, let's discuss this in detail. So, we have got generative AI. Now, generative AI is a transformation of inspections across industries by serving as a co-pilot. Now, what does this mean? It essentially means that when the inspector goes out for inspection, he will have a buddy with him in the form of a co-pilot, where he, to whom it can ask questions if he has any doubts. So the inspector can query for more information on site while conducting the inspection, and the co-pilot is trained with all the information for conducting that inspection, and that's how it helps us. Machine learning algorithm, it enables us to predict failures or disruption in the business, and these predictions would trigger inspection and timely correction of problems, thereby minimizing the downtime. Now, this is a very powerful tool in the manufacturing space where several machines work together in the assembly line to produce a product. Now, these machines, when they work, they can be monitored constantly with different parameters. And if there is a fluctuation in the parameters, inspection can be conducted. Now, these are some of the predictive inspection use cases. We have also got computer vision. Now, computer vision is essentially a AI powered tool which can inspect an image for any sort of deformity or identify things from an image, thereby saving a human being to monitor a space for any sort of regulatory regulatory failures. So for example, in a factory unit, if you have restricted more than 10 people or more than 10 people should not stay in a space. We can have a camera feed which can constantly monitor the number of people in the space. And if it goes beyond, you can always trigger that alarm. So these are some of the tools which can simplify the process. Now, with these simplifications, we what do we get? We get an amplified output. Our accuracy is increased. It is consistent in nature. We get the speed of execution is fast. We get real-time analysis of the inputs. We can treat the camera feeds and we can identify if there are any defects. And with all these automations, we all cut down the cost significantly because there is less human interactions, right? And then at the end, it also gives you a very powerful data insight, right? Now that we have established how AI can help us, let's see what are the best practices Aaseya followed to implement the AI in our solution. Now, I'll take a use case and then we'll go through each of these. So when we were building our solution, we thought we should our inspectors for the inspections should have a co-pilot. So that's where we said that we need to define the scope for what this co-pilot should be able to do. And that's where the defining the objectives, what are we trying to achieve? It's very significant. Now, once we have identified that we wanted a co-pilot, it was the time to identify the right technology. And we know if the co-pilot can be achieved through generative AI and not through computer vision. So we looked at all the generative AI options and identify an option for us, which worked very well. Now, first two steps were to identify, but then comes the actual training part where we had to train our model with the high quality information. So we identified a lot of inspection templates and supplied it to the model so that it learns how the inspections are conducted. And once the data was captured, the model was trained, it, it was time to test it. So while testing, we checked for the accuracy of the response. And once the responses were monitored, we had to adjust our prompts so that we can leverage the output correctly. And once everything was done, it was all about training the inspector, generating the training manuals so that people can leverage the tool to improve the efficiency. Now, that's what we had done, and that's what we tried to document as well. So, step one, define the objectives, choose the right technologies, gather high quality data, and that's very important because the AI tool is as good as the data that you supply to it. So, if the tool is not equipped with the correct information, it will never respond correctly. Moving on, we have to train it efficiently and monitor the performance. Means while monitoring, and you will always encounter fluctuations which can be adjusted with the right prompts. And at the end, it's all about training the users to use that technology so that we get the increased productivity. Right? Now that we have established the challenges and the solutions and the best practices, let's dwell into our solution. So introducing aHawkAI. Now aHawkAI is a comprehensive industry agnostic AI driven inspection solution, which helps the organization navigate the complexities of safety, quality, and compliance. Now this solution is powered by a no code inspection configuration, which supports the entire setup without any IT intervention. So once the solution is deployed, the system administrator can configure the entire system in no time and the inspectors can use it. This system has got advanced capabilities like smart scoring, map-based navigations, zone management, intelligent work routing, and many more. Uh, But what we want to discuss a lot about is the heart of the inspection, which are the templates. Now, every inspection, when it's conducted, it is based on a template which contains a list of checklist items which the inspector goes through to conduct the inspection. Now, these templates could be as simple as a set of questions, maybe 10, 20, 50. So let's take an example, fire safety. Now, when you go for fire safety, we check for different parameters, things like whether the exit are clear or not, whether you have a fire extinguisher or not, whether the fire alarms are working or not. So these kind of checklist items. Traditionally, these checklist items were created manually by the system administrator. Now, system administrator, if they have a list, it's easier to create. If they have to go through a regulatory document, it's slightly more time taking. Now, that's where we started leveraging AI. So we identified two use cases for the AI, which seemed very powerful for this particular solution. So we named it configuration buddy and the inspection buddy. Now, configuration buddy helps the ad system administrators to automate this template creation, while the inspection buddy helps the inspector by acting as a co-pilot and answers everything for the inspector from the information that the system administrator has passed on. Let's see it in action. So we have a document, and what the administrator does, it passes it on to the system, and this the system consumes that information and generates a template out of it. The inspectors, they go into the system and starts querying against that document. And that's how the entire journey is complete. So we have got a configuration buddy to set up the templates. We have got an inspection buddy to act as a co-pilot with the inspectors. Now, how do they work? So these buddies, they work in a two-step process. So the first step is to ingest the data. So when you upload the information, it goes through a API, and the document gets broken down into different chunks of information and gets stored. When the inspector tries to query for anything, again, it goes back to the small chunks that we have. It identifies the related chunks which are significant or which are matching the questions, and then it forms the correct response with the AI uh, with the AI model that we have. Right. So this is the two-step process which is used for our inspection solution. Now let's quickly go into the demo of the configuration buddy. Now, configuration buddy is a four-step process. As I said earlier, it's a four-step process. Now, the first two steps I have already explained. One is the ingestion of the content. So when the file is uploaded, the buddy takes in the information. But step two would be to get the right information or get the checklist out of it. Step three would be to review, and the step four is to publish. So let's see it in action. So here a system administrator logs in and he goes into the configuration buddy. Now in the configuration buddy, he tries to create a new template. So he's saying, I want to create a fire safety template, and then he uploads that document. So I have uploaded a fire safety document and it's submitted. Now what it has done is it has uploaded the content into the buddy and extracted the categories and checklist item. At this point, you can see he is verifying the response that he has received from the buddy. Now, he is performing the third step where he's reviewing everything. So he can modify any of the checklist item that he's identified. He can move it around different categories. At the same time, there is an option to copy as well. So if you feel that this question should be in two categories, you can always do that. And there is also a delete option. So if some of the questions are not very significant and the buddy has incorrectly identified, that can be removed as well. So once this is verified, the system administrator can choose to publish this. Once he publishes, a template gets created which can be used for inspections. At this, now you can see at the bottom, even the system administrator has a copilot. So at this point, you can see he is querying for all the checklist items and the categories, and he's verifying whatever he has is matching or not. Now we go back and verify the template is created. Indeed, it's there and with all the checklist items and category. Now, this concludes the demo for our configuration buddy. Now let's move on to our inspection buddy. Now the inspection buddy is primarily for our inspectors. Now in this, you see the inspectors are trying to conduct an inspection. Now the inspector logs in, and if you see, all the questions that are here are created through the configuration buddy in the um, by the system administrators. Now the inspector is responding to all the queries. So he will look for any sort of failures. So in this case, you can see he's looking at emergency evacuations. Now user can feed in the comments and corrective action. So if there are any failures, non-compliance, the inspectors would attach an image. They will put in a comment what's not right. And they can also suggest corrective actions. Now, in order to add corrective actions, he need not remember everything. He can ask the co-pilot. And that's where the inspection buddy becomes very useful. Here you can see he's asking, and then once asked, he can copy this and go and paste it in the corrective actions. Right. So that's how he's completing the inspection checklist. Now, once this inspection checklist is completed, so you see he's responding to all the other questions in the system, and then he will put a final report. The inspector adds a signature and then submits. Upon submission, this would be passed on to a approver for the final approval. Now here you can see the approver has logged in. He's identified the right case. So the case is identified. Now you can see all the answers that were given by the inspectors are here with the attachments, corrective actions. Now what the approver is doing, he is verifying whether the corrective action is accurately captured or not. At the same time, there is a provision to add more. So he's verifying now. Since it's all added and there is just one corrective action in the document, we'll just approve this. Now here he has to take a final call. So he's saying, I don't need any action. Now at this point, it's very important. We have leveraged another AI tool to convert the speech to text. So he need not sign in everything. He can just speak into the system. And that's how the inspection is completed. There is an inspection report that gets generated and is passed on to the team as well as the entity owner, so that he can implement those corrective actions. Right. So this concludes the demo for the inspection buddy as well. Right. So this concludes our presentation. Now I'm happy to take in any questions that you have. Oh my, I hope we are not over time.
That's perfect, Rahul. And thank you,
Okay.
Rahul, for that insightful presentation. Moving on to the Q&A, I have indeed received few questions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of questions which I want to take because they are pretty similar. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just address them. I mean, you may address them together. So the first question is, can you provide examples of successful AI-driven inspection implementation? That's the first question. Going
Mm-hmm.
on to the second one, how can AI enhance inspection process in industries such as manufacturing or construction?
Okay. So we have two questions. One is very generic one for successful AI driven inspections, and then a very specific question on in the manufacturing and construction space, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, right. So AI-based inspection, they have been implemented successfully in several areas like predictive maintenance in manufacturing space itself. As I gave that example, right, where the feed from the machines are monitored, and if the feeds are not accurate, a predictive inspection gets triggered. In the visual inspection space as well, um, with the visual inspections, especially in the manufacturing space, um, imagine I'll give you an example of the car manufacturing unit where spares are getting manufactured. So let's say the door panels. Now it undergoes a visual inspection where there is a camera feed which identifies any sort of defect in the door panels. So these are some of the ones which are there in the manufacturing space. Even in construction, there are structural monitoring of of the entire building just to deem it safe for residency or commercial purposes. Even the government is using a lot of AI use cases where drone feeds are used to identify visual pollution. Now, visual pollution refers to any element that obstruct the landscape. So, for example, a litter on the road, the people dumping garbage on the sidewalk, right? So, these are some of the visual pollution, and a drone feed is used to identify the visual pollutions. I hope that answers.
Absolutely, Rahul, and thank you for bringing in those examples. And I'm pretty much impressed on this. The stuff that we are doing for the government, where we are using drone feeds to identify potholes, you know, as well as the visual pollution. Now, moving on to the next question, can you elaborate whether a product, aHawk AI, can integrate with existing enterprise systems, and how does that integration works?
So aHawk AI, right? It's built to seamlessly integrate with any of the existing enterprise systems like ERP systems or CRM system or any other industry application or any other in-house application, because we are using a flexible API structures which are purely REST based. So we can connect to any of the existing solutions. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So integration is definitely a key for business. Let's
absolutely, and we have thought this through.
Mhm.
So even if you see, we conduct inspections on various entities. Now these entities would be stored in several ERP systems. So we have thought this through, and definitely we can integrate with a lot of systems.
Absolutely. I can ditto that. And moving on to more of a traditional things. So let's talk about the traditional challenges. So what are the common challenges faced in a traditional inspection process across industries, and how does all this digital element getting into action, especially AI, are able to solve this?
Right. So I did talk about some of the challenges in one of my slides where I talked about two categories, the manual inspection challenges and the operational challenges. Now, the manual ones are where people are struggling in terms of it consumes a lot of time, there are a lot of human error or inconsistency. Right. At the same time, there are operational bottlenecks like scalability issues. We are not able to place, so we are not able to get so many inspectors. That the cost is too high. Now, these are operational bottlenecks, and each of them can individually be addressed with different AI tools. For example, as I said, time consuming can be taken down by automation now. If it is it for example, the door panel, right? The one that I gave you example, previous one. Now, if a human being is doing that, it takes a lot of time. But when a system takes an image or goes through a camera feed, it is finished in a matter of seconds, right?
Right.
So so different
Hmm.
inconsistency issues, for example, right? Now Gen AI can help us a lot in terms in inconsistency issues because if the inspectors are relying on their co-pilot, then they will all get the accurate response and a consistent response. So definitely there are challenges in the traditional way, and AI can individually address each of them with different technologies. Obviously, one technology might not be able to solve all the challenges, but with machine learning, computer vision, and the generative AI, we can fix a lot of problems.
Right, absolutely. Can't deny it. Okay. And thank you so much for this comprehensive overview. I mean, you covered end to end. And one last question I'm going to take, which also, I guess you already have answered, but just wanted to address it specifically. So, what is underlying, what underlying Gen AI model are you using for these AI driven inspections?
Right. So we are using uh, uh, a licensed product. So this is Pegas Knowledge Buddy that we are using underlying. So Knowledge Buddy is a very powerful AI tool, generative AI tool, which works, uh, which relies on the doc information that you supply. So unlike other open means other tools, or let's say GPT or Llama 3, they rely on the knowledge that is available in the public space, while the knowledge buddy relies on only the information that you supply in the form of documents. Now, with this, we can control what an organization is looking for. So if an organization has its own documents, procedural document, we can upload it, and knowledge buddy would only refer to those. So it makes it secure, it makes it consistent, and there is no scope for ambiguity.
Right. Can we take one last question? So it is, uh, yeah. So what is the large language model that is used for AI thing? Yeah.
Sorry, Om, your voice was breaking. I missed
No,
out on that.
no. So the question is, what is the large language model used for uh, this AI solution of ours?
So as I said, right, we are using Pega's Knowledge Buddy. Now this internally uses OpenAI for converting, and it relies on the RAG approach, retrieval augment generation. So the document that we feed in, it gets stored, and it it retrieves information from the document or the content that we have supplied.
Thank you all for your participation and engaging questions. We hope that you found today's session both informative and useful. A special thanks to Rahul for sharing his expertise with us today. As a reminder, this recording is will be available soon. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platform and for more updates for the future webinar. Now that concludes our webinar. Thank you, goodbye, and stay safe.
Thank you for taking out time for us.